There are many good ways of dealing with weeds without having to use herbicides. Here we're going to look at mechanical weeding. But the very first thing we have to do is make sure the plant or the seed is in the right place so that when we run cultivators over top, we don't take out the plants. So we've got transplanters and seeders, all which help to place the seed correctly. So we'll start by building beds like this or prepping the soil. And then we often let a little time go by and then we'll skim till, which is a very shallow tilling, just exposing the roots on the weeds in the top inch or two and not bringing any new weed seed up. Then, depending on moisture conditions and crop, we'll either seed right away or wait a few days and then seed our crop. And we then monitor this very closely so that 1 to 2 days before the crop comes up, we can run over the beds with a flamer. This set of propane torches will melt the tip of the weed. We're not trying to burn it up, we're just trying to heat it enough that the weed will not be able to grow. And then once the crop is up, the next weeding is done with a basket weeder. So this is a unit that is ground driven. The two rows of baskets are connected by a chain with uneven sized sprockets. So the back one goes faster than the front one, and it flicks the weeds back instead of from side to side. This allows us to weed very, very small plants like carrots when they are only a week or two old. And as you can see, it does a nice job of getting all the weeds in between the rows. We repeat this as much as possible every 7 to 10 days for the next 3 to 4 weeks. And usually we have to do one hand weeding to get the weeds out that are actually in the carrot row. As with any cultivation for weeds, that works best on a hot sunny day. And if we have a long spell of rainy, wet weather, then that poses a real challenge. But the system is gentle enough that it even works for beets. Now I'm going to switch it up and show you a couple of different systems with how we weed transplants. So these were little seedlings that were grown in the greenhouse and then planted with a transplanter. Here we've got what we call our Danish weeder with finger weeders on the back and a little chain dragging in between. This tool in particular took a lot of time to get those finger weeders set up so that they cultivate around the plants in the row but do not pull the plants out. And sometimes we even have to change it mid-season to make it more or less aggressive. The nice thing about this unit is the tractor driver can focus on keeping the tractor generally in the right place, but then the guy sitting on the back of the weeder can actually steer that weeder and keep the rows perfectly in between the wheels. The drawback to this system is that you need a tractor, an operator, and another person to steer the weeder, and its travel speed is fairly slow. So let's look at our other system which we use. It's a very simple S-tine setup where we just run 5 S-tines on each side and in between the rows. I like this system because you can go very quickly with it if you're a really good operator. We use this system not only for sweet corn and broccoli, cabbage, cauliflower, and beans, as you can see here, but we also use it for our soybean and our field corn. So it runs many acres every year. And if the plants are big enough, you can go fast enough to throw soil in underneath the plants and actually get some of the weeds in the row. It doesn't work if the weeds are bigger than the plants, but as long as the weeds are smaller than the plants, then you can really do a nice job very quickly. And now we're going to switch and look at our edge of plastic weeding system from Tilmor. This is another system that we've done a lot of trial and error on, and this is the way we've been running it for the last 2 years with some tweaks here and there. I'm not 100% certain it's the best way, but this is where we're at. The crop that's being cultivated here is sweet potatoes, and the little slips have hardly started growing. Note the chains here as well. I like to use chains where I can. It just gives an extra tumble to the soil and just takes that much more soil off the roots and helps the weeds to dry up. The tractor here is a 1949 Farmall AV Cultivision tractor. So it's similar to an A, except that it's raised up higher off the ground. So that gives more ground clearance. In the front, we have a stack of 3 flexible finger weeders, and that's followed by 2 spider cultivators behind. The front fingers loosen and pull the soil away, and the back 2 pull that soil back up by the plastic. The weeds got away from us here because we had the squash covered to keep the cucumber beetles off. So the weeds flourished underneath. And while this did not get all the weeds, it knocked them back enough to give the squash a chance to get ahead of them. And now finally we're going to look at potatoes, which have their own unique set of weed control measures. About 10 to 14 days after planting, we go over top with a Lely weeder. It's a tine weeder, and we go very quickly 2 directions to catch all the weeds that are germinating at the surface. Then once the little potato plants just to start to show through, we use the tine weeder pictured earlier, and we go up and down and try to go fast enough to throw a little bit of soil back up on top and even bury some of those little new shoots. This may have to be done twice, but then it's followed up by the first hilling. So we took a potato hiller and we take the finger weeders off of the back of our Danish weeder and mount them to the hiller for this specific job. I really like how these fingers push the soil in around the potato stalks, level off the top of the row, and catch any weeds that are surviving where the plants are coming up through. Ideally, I like to do the hilling 2 times, but for early potatoes we usually only have time to do 1. And so this concludes my brief tour of some of the mechanized weed control options that we use here at Strawberry Hill Farm.